While cockatoos are favorites of pet owners for their docile nature and long lifespans, one in Texas in 2001 went above and beyond the call of duty during a horrific event. Kevin Butler, an avid Boston Celtics fan who named his pet cockatoo after basketball superstar Larry Bird, was enjoying a quiet evening at home before being disrupted by two robbers. Butler, who was caring for his bird at the time, struggled with the robbers before being slashed in the throat by his assailants. The cockatoo quickly swooped in and pecked at one of the robbers' faces before being stabbed to death with a fork. After the robbers quickly fled the scene, detectives found blood blotted on the beak of the bird and quickly sent it in for testing. The evidence proved to be that of Daniel Torres, and he was promptly arrested along with the other robber. Torres received a sentence of life in prison. A bull lab mix named Chief was the unwilling piece of evidence in the slaying of his owners when their home was invaded by thieves. A late evening in Seattle, Washington in 1996 found Raquel Rivera and Jay Johnson shot to death in their apartment when their dog Chief attempted to stop the thieves. An ensuing struggle mortally wounded the dog, but not before Chief was able to smear his blood along the pant leg of the killer. Despite all attempts to save Chief, he died almost a day later. Detectives quickly found their subjects, but were unable to prosecute until they found the hard evidence of Chief's blood on their clothes. Kenneth John Lealualai and George Tulifano were charged with first-degree murder and animal cruelty and were sentenced to life in prison. Lori Ocker's love of her pets bled over into her career, as she proudly owned a pet shop in Pennsylvania in 1989. While she cared for dogs, cats, and birds at her store, she was a mother to two cats at home. However, when Lori was abducted from her home and missing for 3 weeks, everyone in her town feared the worst. These fears were realized when she was found alongside a dirt road, with no evidence on her body to track down a killer. Still, detectives sought out her estranged husband, Robert Ocker, who had recently been spotted by his parents hastily scrubbing the inside of his vehicle. Robert claimed a desire to sell the vehicle, but the police didn't buy his excuse. They eventually found a multitude of cat hairs all over Robert's clothes and vehicles, and easily traced the fur back to Lori's cats at home. Since he had reportedly been kicked out months before, the cat hair proved Robert had recently been in Lori's home. He was charged with her murder and given the death penalty. An agitated parrot is not the ideal pet for anyone, but in the case of the 2014 murder of Neelam Sharma, it was the saving grace that locked away a murderer. Hira the parrot grew restless after witnessing the death of her owner by a robber she had recognized before. After Sharma's killing, police were left without any leads for weeks, until a family member reported Hira's strange and violent agitation whenever the victim's nephew Ashutosh visited the surviving husband. Thinking it odd, an investigation was centered around Ashutosh, and he eventually admitted to the crime, claiming he had to kill his aunt when she recognized him as he robbed their home. He was quickly imprisoned. A 1985 murder was solved by fate and a grasshopper when a woman was found murdered without any leads to her assailant, save a small dead grasshopper on her jacket that was missing a leg. The investigation soon found its way under the nose of forensic entomologist M. Lee Goff, who was able to connect the grasshopper to the murderer, who had been stopped in a traffic incident a few days later and frisked. When he was found with a grasshopper leg in his coat, Goff reconnected the severed leg with the grasshopper and started the case against the man. He was sentenced to life in prison, as Goff would go on to be a consultant for the popular television show CSI.